I've been doing this for almost 2 years now as a full-time income and decided I wanted to log all of my trades from the beginning of the week to the end of the week all on camera and show you when I took the trade, the outcome, and I even explained to you why I took the position and how I see it playing out, and you get to see if my prediction was actually right or not. So I found myself also taking mostly counter-trend positions as I found these to be the best opportunities through the course of the week. It's not always how my trading works. I take trades with the trend as well. I came out with 29 trades overall with a 68% win rate and 1,800 pips in profit. So let's show you the rundown of the start of my week to the end so you can get a better idea of what it's truly like to be a day trader through the course of a week. Hello everybody, so it is 7:26 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I'm looking at a setup here on the Euro-US dollar. So there was the push down, then the pullback right with the trend. So we're making new lows, so we had a new low right here, pullback, broke this low right here, broke through, and currently in the pullback, and I'm looking for a continuation at this point on the downside. So my indicators are not all in agreement. The Kaleman is down, so that's showing the downtrend on the weekly, and the super trend is not in agreement quite yet, but it's pretty close to changing trend directions on the daily. So I'm going to go ahead and take this. And the reason why I'm looking at this position is this candle right here. Even though it didn't give me an actual signal, it's a pretty good rejection for me to actually take the position. So it's not giving me an ENG signal there, but it's enough of a rejection for me to consider it. It's also right near the round number at 1.18. So I'm going to go ahead and enter this trade now. Okay, so finding the Euro-US dollar. Okay, so I just entered the trade from my VPS, and now we're in, looking for 30 pips, trailing stop on the downside. All right, back for a new update. So it is 9/14, so September 14th at 6:50 a.m. So this is typically the time that I get up in the morning to look for any potential trades just before the US session. So currently I just entered a new trade on the pound USD. So the backing behind this one is it's on the 1 hour chart. And there is an obvious resistance up here at this point that goes all the way through, and had a inside candle reaction to that resistance point. And not just using the pivots points as well, because that actually is showing us that there is a resistance up there and here as well. So that's helpful, but you can also see the past resistance at that same level or around that same level. And the inside candle right on that point is a pretty good indication for a reaction to the level and a further extension on the downside. So I even had the pivots indicator show me an arrow, which is indicating the inside candle. So I like this position, and it's also in agreement with the oscillator as well, being over in an extreme condition here. And the trend is on the upside on the pound, but this is a counter trend position, and you can see that my initial entry was right here where the arrow is showing, but it did bounce up a little bit, but it's falling back down. I suspect this one will be a pretty good take, and there is a lot of price that has happened up here, go down in a retest of that level, and a fall from there. So at least to this point is what I'm looking for. A further extension down would be nice, but we'll see. All right, so the next position, or the one that I took yesterday for my update, that was this position right here. This was a short trade based on this rejection and a continuation on the downside, and this did fly up a little bit higher, hit near the daily R1, and the auto trade from the comeback kid did end up taking this position by itself. So I took this one manually, and the auto trade enters 30 pips near before or after the daily R1 level, so it will enter just before, on, and just after, giving it some room to move and some flexibility around the daily R1 level. And because of that take, it was really quite nice and reacted to it and fell. The price action looks pretty interesting, with a pretty strong candle that just basically stopped at the daily R1 and had an inside candle, or not even an inside candle, but just rejected on the next candle, closed below it, and then continued down from there. And now we're pretty close to the take profit line, just a few pips away, before taking a 0.1% profit. So this is, again, my live account of $30,000. I have withdrawn $4,000, that's why it's showing a little bit lower. So I can do my other video series with a $4,000 account, running the Ranger and the Comeback Kid together on the same account, using the auto trade. So showing a little bit less balance, but overall still very good profit. And let's see if this one will close out later today. I'll be back for another update. So I decided to close out my trades on the Euro US dollar and the pound US dollar. So the pound US dollar was this one short position on the downside with the resistance up here. And I still think this is a good take. And I might have decided to leave this in, and I might even still re-enter just before the news, depending on how price reacts to this daily R1 level. So you can see that this level right here, price dips underneath and bounces back up and closes above that level. As long as I keep saying that, I probably will hold off on taking the position. But if I do see a close below on the M30 or the H1 actually, so next 15 minutes, then I might actually enter another position on the pound USD. But for now, I'm holding off just in case we have a bounce pre-news. So this is what I'm seeing on the Euro US dollar, and this is why I closed out my trades here for profit. So this one was in a small loss, this one was in a bigger profit. So overall, just like a 0.02% gain. So this is this concerning pattern or candlestick that I saw here. This was a rejection off of the daily pivot level with potential bounce on the upside. And I just didn't want to take risk with that 45 minutes before the news. And I'm seeing some USD selling potential on a lot of other pairs. So this is rejection here following the peak up here. So this resistance up at this point, so downside. It's probably limited to the daily pivot level here, falling down, but also didn't want to take the risk there. So seeing the rejection here at the daily R1 on the US dollar Japanese yen, saw that. And these are just hints of why I closed out my trades on the US dollar, so the strength coming back into the USD prior to the news, because of seeing the hints on other pairs. So the USD CAD is just kind of flat right now. Nothing really showing me anything there, but US dollar Japanese yen and the US dollar Swiss franc showing some USD selling coming in, which is something that I just didn't want to take risk on before the news comes out. So I decided to enter again on the pound US dollar, and we're only about 20 minutes out from the USD news, the scheduled USD news. And the reason why I did it is because I had a close below on the H1 below the daily R1. That was a good enough indication for me to take this position, being so close to a pretty significant resistance level. So it could extend further up from here, but I don't mind this placement of trade, considering that we're close to a peak up here. We have already had some pretty good price movement. So whether this goes against me or for my trade, I'm okay taking this trade overall. So things are still kind of mixed for the USD. It's actually starting to head up a little bit on the Euro US dollar, and I'm looking at the gold right down here at its daily support level, daily R1, or sorry, daily S1, and looking for a potential bounce there during the news or post-news. So I'll be looking to potentially take a trade here. So, update for you guys. The markets really started picking up speed a lot, and it caused me to not be able to show the trades live because of how fast things were moving. I just needed to focus on taking the positions. So, we had some really negative news today on the USD, well under expectations of pretty much across the board. And that's caused a lot of volatility to take place. And so my position that I took on the pound US dollar, that was based on the 1 hour chart. So I was looking at the inside candle at this resistance points up here, and this candle closing below the daily R1. And so I took the trade 45 minutes before the news, and I was okay taking this position before the news, considering its placement. It was already pushed up. There was a chance for a pullback to happen and a continuation down. And even if that didn't happen, I wasn't expecting this to go up very much higher. And it looks like I'm right in that expectation right now, which is pretty great. So I'm going to show you the rundown on the M5 to show you what's taking place in this pound US dollar trade. So this was my original position. You can see the daily R1 right here. This is the line daily R1. It might be hard to see in the video, so that's why I'm pointing it out. This is the daily R2 resistance point based on the pivot points indicator that the comeback kit comes with. And the daily R3 is up here at the top, right around the round number of 139. So I was looking at reactions around the 139 level, even with the US dollar news being so weak today and being so negative, that there was possibility for a reaction to the round number on the pound US dollar and for strength to come back into the US dollar. And you can see that's what's happening across pretty much all pairs right now. I'm not sure if it's going to be something that's short-lived, but it may get me out of this trade. At least it's looking a lot better. So I have 3 positions that are currently in on the pound US dollar, and you can see that they're basically almost at break even right now. All right, so looking much better, and I like the positions that I took, and the reason why I took them was this one was based on the reaction right here for the round number, or close to the round number, and this was also a reaction on the M5 to the round number. I was looking at this candle right here. It wasn't a clear rejection, but it was enough of one right around the round number, and looking at the crosses or the other major pairs with the USD pairs, I saw that there was good potential for some strength coming back into the USD, even with the negativity from the news. All right, and so I was also watching gold to see what was going on there, and I took quite a few positions on the volatility here. Took 10 pips on the buy side here on the way up, another 10 pips right here after it broke across the daily pivot level right here. So it took 20 pips here, 10 pips here, so that was 30 total on the way up. And then I had there was a rejection right up at the top of this. This is again the pivots indicator, which is a really helpful indicator that comes with the Comeback Kit Manager EA. And this M5 rejection right here at the top. So this is a bearish rejection right here, bounced above the daily R1 and rejected strong. And there was still enough room for me to take the trade here. And actually got in quite a bit late on the position, ended up taking 25 pips on that on the downside. So 10 pips here, 20 pips here, 25 pips on this one. So doing pretty well with gold today with the high volatility going on. All right, so we'll have to wait to see what happens with the pound US dollar. Looks like it's running into profit right now. I'm at pretty close to my goal, which is 0.1%. So we're pretty close to that, 0.06 at the moment. So let's see if this pops down and hits my take profit line, which is right about there. So it should close out pretty close to that point. So I don't think I'm going to wait for it because it could take a little bit, but it is really close. So let's see if we get it right now. There it goes. All right, so we have an on-screen closing out profit. That's the first time I've had that happen. So pretty cool, guys. So that's a 0.09% closeout, which is a little bit of slippage there because of the volatility of the pound USD. So right now I'm looking at a profit of 0.16%, and that's not including the 0.09 that just closed out from the pound US dollar. So it looks like I'm looking at around 0.25%, which is exceeds my goal for the day, which is around 0.2, which is really what I'm trying to shoot for. All right, so that is basically it. I'm probably going to be done with my trading for today. No more updates as I reached my target, and I'm doing pretty well for the week at about 0.5%. So I'm happy with that. 10:25 on Tuesday, September 14th. I see a trade opportunity on the pound US dollar with a push down here and a possible bounce at 138. So what I'm looking at here, there's no indicators showing me that there is a buy happening here with the ENG in particular, which is my candlestick pattern indicator. So no arrows are showing anything here that there's going to be a bounce. But the reason why I'm looking at this position is because of the round number 138. And I suspect that there could be some pullback in here with a potential bounce. And either an extended move up or this pushes up a little bit and then continues back down. I'm going to take my chances here as I think this is a pretty good opportunity after a lot of push down on the pound US dollar. So it was over 100 pips here. So I'm going to go ahead and enter the trade. So open up my BPS and go ahead and enter that position. So just hit the buy button on the pound, and there we have it. Okay, so that is the trade for tonight, and I'll be letting the algorithm take over. So the auto trade will enter any other trades that move down. So the S1 is where it will be looking to enter more trades if the market or the pair goes against me. So we'll see what happens when I wake up in the next 8 to 10 hours. All right. Quick update for the pound US dollar. As you can see here, the trade went into profit through the course of the night while I was sleeping and activated its trailing stop. And the trailing stop was activated at 30 pips. It went a bit higher, went about 44 pips, which is unfortunate because my trailing stop step increases every 15 pips beyond 30. So I would have reactivated or pushed the stop loss a little bit higher at 45 pips, so it was just barely missed. So it's just about to hit my trailing stop of 17 pips, I believe, right now. Yeah, it's about 16 or so pips. It's probably going to hit that and then close out for profit. So I'm not complaining, it's profit here. I'll take 17 pips. So I also entered the trade recently on, just a few minutes ago actually, on the US dollar Japanese yen. So this is trade 1 based on the inside candle setup. And I liked the way this looked from the peak up here all the way down to the bottom, which is about 90 pips or so. There was a little bit of a pullback right here from this point to this point. And it was only about 20 pips, not a whole lot. I'm expecting a bit more of a pullback on the US dollar Japanese yen. Hasn't taken place yet. So we're getting a little bit of action right now. Currently in a little bit of profit. One trade is in $3.50 drawdown, and the other one's in $5 profit. So we'll see how this plays out over the rest of the day. So back for another quick update. Apparently, I just got this candle that closed out recently on the M30 about 5 minutes ago, and I took a short position. This is with the trend, with the Kalman. So if you're checking out the Kalman, you'll see that this is on the daily, on the weekly trend is down, and I wanted this position based on the inside candle setup here, right here, and a rejection candle thereafter right at the daily R1. So the rejection candle is right here. This is a bearish engulfing candle, and I'm expecting the Euro US dollar to fall further on the downside. So my pound US dollar trades is still barely in, and my US dollar Japanese yen is continuing to go lower. So we'll see how things play out today. I've got some long positions with the USD and some short positions with the USD, and we'll see which ones play out. Quick market update for you guys here. So it's September 15th, 12:53 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My pound US dollar trade closed out for 15 pips trailing stop profit. It did increase further after that, but that's okay. Still came out with profit there. The US dollar Japanese yen. So this was a trade that I took right before the US news, and this was based on the inside candle with the nice push down. The trend on the larger time frame was up. My oscillator was in extreme condition here. And the trade was based on a 30 pip 30 pip distance from my grid pivot level 1. So the grid pivot level 1 is right here, as you can see on the daily S1. So that's my pivot level 1, and I'm entering 30 pips above, 30 pips below, and then also 30 pips, and you can enter trades right on that as well. So that is one condition, and I have two conditions that the Comeback Kid Manager algorithm follows, and the other one is a grid level percentage of the ATR of 0.25. So that's 25% of whatever the ATR is. So the ATR right here is 43 pips, and so the grid will be 25% of the ATR, which is 43 pips. So in this case, that means that we have a combination of the two, where we're entering 30 pips below and 30 pips below. That's our condition 1. And our condition 2 is our ATR's grid size, being 25% of whatever the ATR is. And so what that gives us is a grid size of, in this case, of 10 pips. And I think it might have widened just a little bit, 10 points to almost 11 pips on the third trade. But you can see here that that combination was really powerful, and it allowed me to get a really nice third trade right before the bounce on the news, which got me into the profit of 0.11%. So it's really quite a good position here, and I was able to anticipate the nice pullback after the push down. Okay, so the gold trade. This is one trade that I took not too long ago. It just closed out about a couple hours ago. And this was based off of the H1 bearish engulfing candle after a push up, nice and bearish engulfing candle, and it took the position right after, right near the daily pivot level, actually, right in here, and it was able to come out on a profit of about 51 pips or so on that gold trade. So this was a trailing stop activation of 30 pips, and was able to extend a bit further than that, which was nice, and so that's why I came out with 50 pips. So the largest image on this one is push up, trickle down, a little bit of a big rejection around the daily pivot level, and an extension on the downside. Okay, so that's basically my trades for today. I still have one open Euro US dollar trade that's taking place. This one is bounced off of the daily R1, and there was the first rejection right here. Actually, this was the first rejection that took place. And let's see if I can get the ENG. So yeah, so this was the first small inside candle right here. Not too significant, but this is a rejection that I was looking for, bearish engulfing, and then a further bearish engulfing right after that. And so now we're finally getting the extension on the downside and the trend continuing on the downside for the Euro US dollar. So this is where my trade is, and it's currently in about 19 pips profit. I have a trailing stop on this trade for 30 pips, and so we'll see if that gets activated later today or tomorrow. All right, that's it for today, and that's pretty much a pretty good day overall, which is one of my higher days in a while, with a 0.38% profit, and for the week I'm at 0.9%. My profit goal for the week is 1%, so I'm just under that right now, so don't really have to trade that much more for this week to reach my goal. And if I decide that there's not good enough trades, I won't take them and just leave it at 0.9%. All right, looking really good for the account at $4,500 so far since I started about just over 2 months ago. All right, see you guys on the next update. September 16th at 7:52 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So currently I'm in a position on the Euro US dollar at 1.177. And during the course of the European session, just the Euro US dollar just tanked. Blew right past all of the daily support levels, daily support 1 and 2, and has held so far at S3. The news is coming out in the USD in the next 40 minutes, and I'm going to show you that now. So that is the retail sales that are coming out, and that is going to be the main news for today. If the numbers are good, I would expect this to launch up quite a bit, better than expected. And if they're worse than expected, I would see probably a bit of a push down, and then maybe a possible recovery after that. And if they're slightly negative, I would expect probably a bounce up as well. So I'm expecting more of a bounce here just because of how much price we've had in the last quite a few hours, 10 hours or so. And hasn't been much of a pullback. So I'm expecting a pullback to happen whether the news is good or bad. We'll see what takes place post-news in about 40 minutes. All right, so gold has really tanked as well, and it continues to pre-news. And I'm glad that I didn't take any other positions besides this short position here. I was considering a long trade here at this point, but decided not to go in because of the rejection candle from yesterday. So this was a rejection candle that almost hit the peak up here, and it was a pretty significant candle, and that's why I entered the short yesterday. But I'm glad that I let the structure speak for itself and didn't enter any long positions, considering that this would have been a pretty difficult trade to be in if I was on the long right in here. Okay, so that's it for now. I'm going to be back with an update on my Euro-US dollar trade later on. Quick update for my trades. It's just after 11 a.m. on the 16th of September. This was my Euro-US dollar trade that I took just before the news at the daily S1, S3 level. And it pushed against me about 20 pips, and I'm surprised because it could have been a lot worse, considering that the news numbers for the USD were quite a bit better than expectations, and the USD did react on most USD pairs, but the Euro-US dollar actually was the least out of all of them. And my thinking is because it was just such an aggressive push in one direction with basically no pullback, which caused it to really just sit there after the news went down a little bit, and now we're getting a bit of a recovery in the upside. So that pullback is taking place even with the positive US dollar news, which is basically what I expected to happen. I expected it to happen in a bigger way. It just didn't take place, but maybe we'll get that pullback that I was looking for earlier right now in the later part of the US session. All right, so US dollar pairs on most everything are starting to have their pullback taking place, and the gold is one that got hit the hardest with the US dollar news. And my initial trade I took right 5 minutes before the news, and again this was a just one level trade, so this is just one trade, and I was okay taking this before the news even if it went against me. I was thinking that there was a pretty big extension downward, just like on the Euro-US dollar, and so my chances of a bounce on the upside were pretty high. That didn't take place because the news on the US dollar was so positive that it did extend further. And the big money did end up riding in on this one harder too, pushing it down even further, about over 200 pips. And then I was able to catch where price started slowing down, and now I'm getting that pullback. So that's all about, if you're wrong on the first prediction, right? I was wrong on the first prediction on both mainly on the gold trade. And I have many chances as a multi-order trader to find that reversal point. And I was able to find that reversal point by looking at the M5 and the M15 and seeing how price was reacting to these levels. So when it pushes down really quickly and then you see like this happening in one place, it has a chance of going down further, but it also has a chance of doing this, kind of like this, and then shooting back up. So there's this consolidation period that's happening, and that's what I'm looking for on the smaller time frames and on the larger time frames. And now I got even a confirmation on the 1 hour chart and on the 30-minute that we have an inside candle taking place right here, and even gave me an ENG candles signal as well. So this would have been a good place to enter just about 4 minutes ago, and price is reacting to it. So looking pretty good on my trades right now, just really small drawdown at the moment. Things are going in my favor. The US dollar Swiss franc also got a really nice entry on this one too. So this pushed way above all the daily R2 and R3s. But there was a rejection candle up here that closed just barely below the previous candle. I thought this would be a good place to enter based on the USD weakening on other pairs. So I saw this happening on the US dollar Japanese yen, I saw this happening on gold, I saw this happening on the euro US dollars as well, with trades on the M30, or candlesticks on the M30 giving me wicks on the bottom with bullish candles with smaller bodies, showing that the weakening of this push was taking place. So we'll see if this continues on the upside through the rest of the session today, or if it's just a small pullback and then we're going to extend further down. That's also possible, but you'll just have to wait and see. Give you guys another update soon. It's Friday, September 17th, 9:12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And most of my trades from yesterday closed out into profit. My Euro US dollar trade ended up kind of just moving around a little bit before it ended up closing for profit during the European session. So the second trade here was an auto trade by the Comeback Kid, and it was because of the settings here. If you scroll down and look at the grid step, so since I already had an order in, that means the grid step was already active and looking for 25% of the ATR. So the ATR during the Japanese session lowered quite a bit and causing a second trade to go in after a low volatility started taking place, and the ATR started lowering, and that caused us to enter, or the algorithm to enter a second position, which was really good. It was right before the European session started picking up some speed, and we ended up getting that pullback, which closed right here. Both trades closed for a 0.1% profit, as you can see right here, which was $30.81. The next position that closed out was the gold trade that I was in from yesterday. Now this was the first trade that I took, and this one was right before the news, and the news was very much against me, as I mentioned yesterday, and entered on the consolidation period, and there was a period of price where there was potential for bounce, the pullback after such an aggressive push down. There's always going to be some kind of pullback, as I mentioned before. If we're going down, we have that pullback, an extension down, pullback, extension down, and that's typically how the market works. With it stretches and it retracts, and it stretches again and retracts, and that's what took place here: stretches and retracts. So it's important to try to find that those moments when it has those pullbacks, and I was able to get this one correct on the second trade, where the market did, or the pair, the gold versus the USD, did end up popping back up and closing out for a realized profit of 0.2% on this one. So this ended up pushing up to the pivot line, the daily pivot line, and then returning back down. And I'm actually kind of considering it a sell trade here, but the only issue here is that even though it's likely going to extend further down, I'm too close down to the bottom here that if it decided to just change directions all of a sudden, I could get stuck in a lot of price in the opposite direction. So it's not worth it to me, especially considering that I've had a really great week so far at 1.24%. So I'll refresh the page, 1.24% profit, which is $384, and I was able to bank 1,813 pips overall. So it's 29 trades, 68% win rate, and had one of my best weeks in quite some time. So I still have 2 trades that remain, and those ones are on the US dollar Swiss franc. Now, I was considering closing these ones out for a break even, but price has extended so far up that I'm still expecting a pullback, probably sometime later today, but it's possible I may hold these trades through the weekend. There's only 2 in right now, so this is my initial order, and this was my second one. Did get that pullback, but the profit target was about 10 pips short, so it's really unfortunate there. But overall, I'm pretty happy with my trades this week, and things really did work out, and hopefully you guys were able to get a rundown of how I approach the market with the Comeback Kid Manager EA, and everything is done with the default settings. So nothing I'm doing is different than what the public has access to. All right, so that's it for this week, and it looks like it just entered, the Comeback Kid just entered another position, a third trade, right up here, right near the round number, which is pretty awesome. So this was just below the next daily R1. So we're how many pips under here before I leave you guys? So this is 12 pips under the daily R1. So I like this third trade here being at the round number. Let's see if we get any action on when it falls down. But until next week, I'll see you guys. Bye.